Hello, and welcome to this week's My Life or My Family devotional. We're going through this devotional book throughout the year, looking at how we can build better families. This week is about relationships with adult children, and ironically, the minister who has the youngest child is going to talk about this one. But uh, hopefully, I can not necessarily speak from experience, although I am an adult child myself, I guess, um, be able to point out some of the good stuff that he has in this week's devotional. He starts off, interestingly enough, by talking about not ministering to your adult children, but as I guess, a reminder to those who don't have adult children yet, so myself included, of if you want to truly build relationships with your adult children, you have to start those relationships while they're young. We can't expect these beautiful relationships to pop up in adulthood if we don't foster them from the start. So how are we building those relationships at the beginning uh, and trying to show our children from a very young age what is most important to us? Um, as the proverb says, training up a child in the way that they should go, so that when they are old, they don't depart from it. But that when they are old stems from the training they get when they are younger. And hopefully, when we do that, like the Devo says, we'll be able to create a space in our homes, in our families, that they feel comfortable and safe returning to. Providing a space where once they get out into adulthood, once they get out into the real world, that they know they have a safe spot, um, a caring and nurturing spot that they can always go back to when they need it. And that starts at a young age, providing that space in the home. So, what am I doing for my family today to foster that space for them when they're older? I think is a really cool thought. It's something that we can continue to work on no matter what age our children are, or if we don't even have children yet, and you're planning on or wanting to have children at some point. What are we doing to provide that environment? And then he goes on from yesterday, talk about knowing what time it is. This is actually really cool because the youth group just got back from Winterfest, and the whole theme was based on this idea in Scripture of the hour has come, and talking about Jesus' last moments and his relationship with his disciples. And you can almost, Jesus has a clear mission of coming to save um, the lost, coming to save the Israelite nation, be their Messiah, but also bring in us Gentiles as well. But he also has these other like little side missions almost, and one of them is preparing his disciples to be disciples, right? And that's what we're all about here at Red Bank, right? Making disciples who make disciples. So how are we doing that with our children? How are we training them to not only be disciples, but make disciples, who make disciples, who make disciples, right? And in that way, we're also imitating Christ and what he did here on earth. And then for today's devotional, he talks about providing good counsel and encouraging good counsel. And I think this too starts at a young age. We can't pick their friends, although sometimes we may want to. But we can, I think, provide people in their lives who have a good influence. My parents were very adamant on making sure my brother and I were at church and went to church. And while we were there, then part of the reason they did that is because they knew that we would be exposed to different Christians um, who cared about us and who reached out to us. And I can go down a list of people from my church growing up that had a huge impact on my life and still do, um, and some that I still talk to. Uh, Kurt Brothers was my preacher growing up, and he ended up being the preacher at my wedding, and somebody I still talk to and look up to. So that's one way of making sure that we are introducing people in their lives who have a lasting impact. Uh, Another way is sports. We were a huge sports family, and we loved being at sports, watching sports, um, and anytime we also went to a ton of sporting events, and we had season tickets to Titans game, that kind of stuff. Like we were a big sports home, um, and my dad never didn't necessarily point out like the best players all the time. I mean, he did of like pure talent, but if there was ever somebody who was a great example of not only how to play the game, but how to act off the field and actions off the field. Tim Tebow is probably like one of the best examples, right? Who's a great athlete, but his conduct and demeanor on and off the field were were like great, right? And my dad was quick to point those people out, like, hey, you need these are the people you need to look up to and model. And still to this day, like those are some of the athletes that have the biggest impact on me. Um, I didn't really care for the Steelers, sorry, or Najee Harris that much until I watched the Steelers game and they told his story and some of the stuff that he does for the community because of his upbringing. And I was like, dude, this guy's awesome, right? So finding ways to introduce um, or point them to celebrities or athletes who not only just great in what they do on the field or on the whatever, right, but who have this character and morality about them that is something that we want them to model. So introducing people into their lives that they can look up to and that they can model. And I'll leave the next 2 days for you to go through, but hopefully we can find ways to make these a part of our lives as we think about building a relationship with our adult children. If there's anything that we can do for you this week, anything that we can pray for, help you out with, please let us know. And until then, we'll see you next week. Take care.